Welcome everyone to Fashion Fridays. Grishma is going to do an amazing presentation on generative AI and IP. Grishma, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Frankie. My name is Grishma. I'm a recent graduate from University of Manchester. I'm working with Frankie and Fashion AI for the past 2 months, and it's been a great ride till far now. And I've learned a lot more than I would actually have had the opportunity if I haven't joined Fashion AI. And I'm curious to learn more from Frankie and the Fashion Fridays. I think I've joined last week and it's been amazing. And I'm also excited for the knowledge proof part. That is about me, and I hope you enjoy my presentation today. I will try not to get too legal or technical into it, but yeah, that is for today.
Fantastic. And before we start the presentation, Marina, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Absolutely. Hi, I am Marina. I will be giving just a quick sort of overview kind of at the end of the call relating to zero knowledge proofs and the applicabilities that will likely have to this space as well as other industries. So just to give you a little bit of background, my career I've spent in pharma and financial services, working in digital product development, program portfolio management. So it's definitely a space I'm interested in.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'll pass it over to you, Grishma, and you can present.
I'll start sharing my screen, but I think I have to go off the video. I'm actually connected to my hotspot. So I hope that's fine.
I'm sure it will be fine.
Yeah. Is it visible?
Yes, we can see your presentation and we can see you.
Just a minute.
I've switched off your camera, so it will be less laggy for you.
Okay. So yes, welcome everyone. Today we are going to explore an exciting topic that blends the worlds of AI, fashion, and intellectual property rights. We'll be discussing how you can monetize your AI-generated fashion designs at the same time while safeguarding your creations through various IP rights and licensing strategies. So let's begin with understanding your intellectual property rights. What is IP? If you're not getting too deep or legal, it's basically a legal right that you have, which is associated with the creation of human minds. I know a lot of people might have a perception of intellectual property rights already. There are a lot of examples to it. It's attached with inventions, designs, symbols, names, artistic works, and images. What is IP for fashion design and in sphere of AI would be that the design, the graphics, or like the basic drafts or sketches that any artist does in the fashion sphere would amount to your intellectual properties. And this is basically a right that protects from unauthorized use or people infringing your basic copyright that you have created using your own invention and creations. So that is our take on intellectual property rights. I'll be dealing with several types of IP in fashion, which are copyrights, trademarks, design, patents, utility patents, trade dresses, and personality rights. Right here, we have a differentiation between the things that you have to apply for getting an IP right and that the things that you do not have to. So copyright is something that you naturally adapt to. So you do not have to apply for a copyright, but however, it's recommended that you get a copyright officially. But if you have a track of your work, if you have like a portfolio of your work, if, for example, if some writer has a written work of his novels, which are published by someone else infringing his knowledge, he can ask for a copyright infringement, saying that the work was dated right prior to what the novel has been released to. So it's a right that the legal perspective we give to the creative minds that are out there. But in recent times, one thing that we have observed is the AI that has come into a lot of spheres, for example, creating artworks, but in fashion, not just in fashion, but several other areas as well. So legally, we are still looking forward to integrate AI generated artworks into traditional IP rights. But it's not yet completely strategized, or we don't have policies on it. We don't have legal rules pertaining to it. But however, the positive sign is US is going straight ahead with a panel that is looking into incorporating artificial intelligence created artworks, and how the artists can claim copyright or patents or design rights. But if you are someone who is working with graphic art in the sphere of AI pertaining to fashion, then there's a positive news that you can actually copyright it or like design patent it. So that's one place where the IP in a legal perspective is more clear about using AI. But the rest of the other things are a little unclear as of now, but we are hoping to get a lot of positive signs from the policymakers as well on this perspective. And trademark is basically something that most of us know about, the logos, brand designs, or the names that we use, which help us differentiate between several different artists or works. How we are able to differentiate between the brand logos and creations of fashion, that comes under trademarks. And design patterns are something that if you create a unique or ornamental design that is specific for your fashion product, you can apply for design patents. And then there's utility patents. This is more from the sphere of technologies or innovations on an industrial basis rather than an individual artist perspective. So if you are into some technology that you want to own, then utility patents will play the role here. Then this is trade dress and personality rights. These two are very curious for me as well. If you make a specific dress, I hope all of us have seen the dresses that bounce with a certain texture of fabrics that they're using. That is one under the trade dress patterns, which the fabric, the way the fabric looks and the dress that looks, that comes under trade dresses. So personality rights is something that I might be curious about, because over fashion AI or general AI generated artworks, we use a lot of celebrity faces, we use a lot of public faces to create art based on them. Or like for example, Elon Musk is space related art designs that have come up. But I think there would be restrictions considering how personality rights would come and play more role into it. So this is the right that the personalities have, the general public or the person's face that we use. So I would suggest beforehand to refrain using actual faces of celebrities, so that in future, if the artwork is being copyrighted, there shouldn't be an issue with just the personality rights putting an infringement over it. So the next one is identifying your IP rights. It's very crucial for us to identify IP rights, under which IP rights we have protection. So in order to monetize our fashion designs, the first one would be cataloging your designs and artwork, where keeping a detailed track record of your AI generated fashion designs to establish ownership in the near future when copyright becomes AI generated as well. So sorry, AI generated artwork becomes copyrightable as well. And conducting copyright search. As of now, there is no specific website or a platform where you can go and check if the artwork is copyrighted or another creator has come up with the same idea. But for the moment, I've seen a lot of people taking Google Lens as a reference to check if the artwork is already on the platform or in the public domain, to avoid any infringements. Then there would be evaluating novelty and inventiveness. This basically would be how new is your product, how new is your design. And if you're, for example, if you're taking the Nike Air and people are making artwork around it, they're customizing it. So how new are you making it, or how, to what extent is your edit uniquely putting the product out into the market? That is how you evaluate your novelty and inventiveness. This way, if you have specific type of design or specific type of texture that you're adding to already market existing products, even then you can say that you can copyright it or patent it. Then identifying your trade confidentiality. This is in a more forwarded sense, but if a fashion brand has already been created using AI, then having particular trade secrets or considering aspects of your algorithms that you use in AI platforms would be crucial in identifying your trade confidentiality and not allowing people to understand your algorithms that you follow through AI. Would come under the trade confidentiality part. So I've added a picture here where it makes it clear. So if the consumer recognizes which are products of our services, then it would come under trademarks, and the protect the way it works would be patents, and protecting, I'm sorry, this is being closed for me. The remaining two, I hope you can see it from here because it's closing. The view is closed for me there. That comes under design patterns as well. Then I've added a fun take on IP. So the other person has a bulk of products or artwork that they have created. This person says, oh, look, it's like mine, and here's my new invention. So it's not new that people come up with similar or familiar ideas, but the first person to go and copyright it would be the owner of it over the time for a specified period under the legal rules. So having your portfolio is very crucial to maintain the records that who has created the art first, and determining the copyrights or the intellectual property rights that we will be coming up with. And then I think licensing is one part where a lot of creators are stuck with. Licensing, it allows you to grant others the right to use, not just you maintaining the ownership, but will also allow a lot of people to develop or edit further in the public domains. I'll be using Midjourney, Nightcafe, and Stable Diffusion, but will be concentrating on Midjourney as it is quite complicated comparing to Nightcafe and Stable Diffusion. Nightcafe and Stable Diffusion have a very clear approach of intellectual property rights, considering the users that they have. So if you are a user, then the artwork or the digital asset that you make using the platform belongs to you and not the platform, Nightcafe and Stable Diffusion. But one aspect is where they have also the right to circulate it among the website for publications or like any promotions that they want to do. But they also have subscriptions where you can totally own your copyrights. But Midjourney is quite complicated, considering how the rights and IP rights that it's giving and working towards. So in this picture, the first thing that Midjourney puts ahead is that the rights we give to Midjourney and the services that while using the platform, what are the rights that you are giving to Midjourney? As an artist, I think it's very crucial to understand the rights that we are giving to the platform and what way the platform is using our artwork. So so that we don't contradict with it later. And these are some pictures of Midjourney's terms and conditions. So these are a few areas where Midjourney, in the first picture, it has different subscription prices and different products that it's giving. Then there's sleep mode, which is the essential part of protecting your artwork that you're creating using Midjourney into going into a public domain. This puts a bridge between, it puts a wall between your artwork that is possibly being used by Midjourney to give it to the other users to edit it further. So if you have a subscription that has the sleep mode on, then your artwork is completely protected and your IP right belongs to you. So any work that you use it, you can later on use it on products that you can sell on platforms that are available to AI generated works as well. And monetizing your work platforms to sell. Delving into some effective strategies to monetize the AI fashion designs would be platforms to sell. Utilizing marketplace is one such thing which allows you to sell your AI generated designs directly to consumers. There are a lot of platforms that are coming up newly specifically for AI generated artworks, which as such as AutoMed, and then there is print on demand, where you can generate certain designs on the AI platforms and later use it to supply customers using print on demand strategy. Then NFT marketplaces. I have a curious take on NFT marketplaces, as luxury brands nowadays are coming in collaboration with a lot of NFT artists that are selling AI generated designs in collaboration with the luxury brands, which in the article has specified that, how they're trying to shape the future of fashion and arts with the help of AI generative, which shows us that in the near future, there will be a lot of projects, or there will be a lot of area to work with AI, and possibly to monetize it in the early stage of being an artist as well. Now we have to have like a portfolio which has to have certain number of followers to get our work recognized, but later on it's going to be on the demand basis, as luxury brands are also coming forward with the AI generated artist collaborations. Then there is digital marketplace that we've talked about, and fashion design competitions, which are not very familiar among a lot of artists, but then there are a lot of artists that have come into the limelight using fashion design competitions. Metaverse, we have fashion AI has a specific area where you can display your artworks under certain categories and themes that fashion AI is promoting. Then there's social media. The picture on the right is the recent one that I've seen, where she used fashion AI generated tools to create a TikTok, putting on different costumes in one video. And I think that has gained a lot of followers, that has given a lot of different perspective how you can monetize your artwork using AI. And then fashion brands and retailers. This is an old-fashioned method, but then with online resources where you can reach out to brands and retailers to collaborate with them and sell your art portfolio to have a design collection. And that is with fashion brands and retailers. Social media presence, like I've told, having a strong social media presence is very crucial for AI generated artists at the moment, to give the exposure and opportunities on a global realm, and also to attract followers, which is directly linked to gaining brand partnerships and having direct commission works, like how certain artists are drawing, or like using AI generated works to customize products for their customers. So that's one place where you can monetize and gain a lot of financial rewards as well. And this is a little now at the moment is very limited to certain well-known artists, but in the near future there are platforms that are coming up. There are a lot of platforms specific for certain communities or certain interests that are dividing and having platforms to sell your artworks with fashion brands, which are directly and indirectly collaborating and intaking the designs that you have and producing them and fast producing them as well. So this is one of the significant financial or monetizing way of your artwork. And that is my presentation. I hope it was clear, and any questions I would be more than happy to answer.
Yes, I have a question, which is with fashion AI and the competitions, if we're coming up with, an idea for a competition, how much do you think the end result, the design, is responsible? It's the brief versus the actual designer coming up with their unique take on the brief?
Well, coming to IP rights, it's not AI generated artwork that we have currently is already existing. It's not something that the artists are creating, but it's the creation of their mind that they're enabling, that they're developing into further artworks. Fashion AI had a lot of themes. For example, we had the tennis theme, Frankie, where it was already existing in the normal realm. There have been a lot of fashion walks that have done on the theme, but this gives the artist a lot of there's no boundary in AI. So you can go to an extent and create, but I think to answer your question, the extent would be where it is producible. It's not something the artist is creating just for fun, but it should also be able to be produced on a real time basis as well. So I think that is where the extent comes into existence.
And then the second question is, when you go from AI art, which is 2D, to digital fashion, which is 3D, to physical fashion, which is physical, is each jump like a derivative piece of the original generative AI artwork? Is the digital fashion and the physical fashion, are they regarded as generative AI fashion because they've been inspired by a generative AI art piece, or is it seen as something completely different?
Absolutely, they will be seen as a product of AI generation, but it stops right when it's getting into the physical world, because the inspiration and the design, so basically if you take the fashion world also in physical realm, will be doing the sketches first and then making it into the original piece. So the difference, the shift from the sketches to the original piece is whereas it stops right between your creation and the sketchwork. So the artist that is creating the sketchwork would be more praised or given the reward, or have a lot of appreciation to it. So in the AI generated piece, the 2D sketch that the artist prepares and then being shifted into a 3D and then to the physical thing would be possibly at the moment they are looking at the one area where all of this is coming under, but there might be a lot of divisions that later on might be available.
Okay, great. Those are all my questions. Do you guys have any questions? Guess not. Marina, would you like to discuss zero knowledge proofs and extend our conversation around IP?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to caveat, I think that was a great presentation. So thank you for kind of outlining, I think, some of the important characteristics relating to IP as it relates to artificial intelligence asset creation and ownership. So the piece that I'm going to be talking about today is sort of an extenuation on that, really more relating to on-chain data. So I'm going to use just a very simple to digest analogy really quick, because zero knowledge it can get really complex very quickly. So I hope this helps. So imagine, you're going to a restaurant or a bar, and, we're all very accustomed to having to take our IDs with us if we want to either be able to access if it's an over 18 or 21 kind of place of entry, or if we want to be able to consume certain beverages, right? We have to take our IDs with us. There's very sensitive information on that ID card. And so in this particular scenario with zero knowledge, we would be able to go to those facilities without our physical ID, and the person checking would be able to prove it's us without actually having to reveal any data. So I hope that makes sense. So really, why is this important? Well, this really enables a new type of framework, leveraging Web3 blockchain technology, primarily in layer 2. You may be accustomed to hearing like about layer 1, layer 2, et cetera. So a lot of zero knowledge concepts are being built on layer 2. We're now at an intersection where there is kind of a reality where it is possible to not only bring asset verification, and this includes intellectual property verification on chain, but also without some of those core central intermediaries that we've kind of needed historically to do those verifications. Think IP lawyers, asset managers, those types of roles. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, because it doesn't mean those roles are going away. It just means that the nature is changing for how we might be working with them. So kind of in this world, right, we now have the ability to bring not only this information on chain, but we are also enabling a process in where we can transfer certain asset or ownership rights and enable better traceability rate because we're bringing this information on chain. And there are several zero knowledge projects that are kind of in flight right now. StarkX is one, StarkNet is another, Looping is another, but some of the ones that I'm most interested in are being built on the Polygon ecosystem. Polygon Maiden is one, as well as Hermes and Zero and Nightfall. So these are all kind of at different, I would say, stages or places, or maybe focusing on different aspects of, the entire sort of zero knowledge ecosystem to enable what I would say would be like a perfect sort of ideal state. So just a couple of considerations here. There are a lot of nuances, right, with trying to get to that target state ecosystem. There are also other considerations relating to the types of use cases that are currently being built versus maybe what is ultimately achievable. We're seeing, I think, the most activity and enterprise adoption within the gaming space. So there are a lot of gaming projects that I think Polygon has sort of stood up with key players in this space now, but that is not to say that, for instance, banking and payments, are also kind of becoming key players in this as well. And there are also biotechs and pharmas looking at ways to leverage this technology. Think of like vaccines, for instance. There's a lot of intellectual property that is tied to vaccines. Ideally, you could leverage this zero knowledge technology to kind of bake in, right, some of that data, and it would enable a way for us to collaborate with partners or maybe other biotechs or other, kind of agencies in that process without actually having to reveal certain key data related to the intellectual property. Just to give you an insight, excuse me, into the investment that is happening with this particular technology. Polygon Capital led a $22 million funding round for a foundation that they're establishing that is specifically focused on zero knowledge. And in the last 3 years alone, there's been around 92,000 patents that have been filed and granted across the banking industry. So there is a lot of investment that's happening with this particular technology, but it's really because the implications are just so grand. So I'm going to pause there. Let me know if you have any questions. I think it might be worthwhile if we come back and possibly do a round 2 related to this, because there's just a lot of aspects that I think are very interesting related to zero knowledge and what we could focus in on.
Yeah, so in terms of if you were to sort of break down the process, in terms of like a user journey of what would that look like on the like front end side of things and the back end, if you are a pharmaceutical company and you're registering a vaccine, so you're putting it online, is it going into a database? Is that being encrypted on the blockchain? Like how does that actually work? Is it as simple as a form and then people just have access to that data? A bit like an API, or how does it compare?
Yeah, I could try to give like an example of how something that might work, but because I haven't actually worked on a project like this, I mean, we explored ways to do this through contracts back in 2016. So the things have evolved like super fast since then. But let me try to give like an example of how you might do this. So let's say I'm a pharma and I am interested in doing this precisely. Like I want to move all of my IP data like on chain. I would probably consider reaching out to Polygon directly or something. You would probably need to stand up some sort of supernet for your company that is protected by your company and what other entities, and making sure that you have the right legal representation, compliance representation, because in my experience, having had worked on that side of the fence, there's just the approval processes for new technology onboarding into your environment as a corporate entity. You have to go through a lot of checks. So there would probably be security checks that they would need to account for. Is the data being exposed in any type of way that is disparaging against what it's ultimately saying that it's doing or it's intended to do? So there's just a lot of information that we need to verify. That being said, if all things go well and they say yes, like this is compliant, we can proceed with using like a Polygon supernet, and we're gonna start building on this to move all of our IP data. There are still a lot of other considerations. So then we need to think about really sort of the use cases. Who is this information for? Are there other integrations that we need to account for that maybe can't concurrently exist, leveraging just the standalone technology? So you may have to enable other APIs or SDKs, DAMs, just it could be a swath of technology integrations as part of this overall kind of ecosystem that you'd have to build to do this. And then finally, kind of getting to the sharing part, I mean, that kind of goes back to the question of, what technology do we need to integrate into this to make it viable for us? So I would say it wouldn't be a short process. It would be a very elongated process to discover, assess, verify, really the if this can work for us in our particular use case. And then, just a timeline to actually figure out when you could feasibly roll that out, really, and what the expectations would be when you do.
Amazing. And so if you are, again, a pharmaceutical company or you're a bank, okay, my knowledge is very basic, but my understanding is that if you are very, very protective of the data, you should have your own server, not even, putting it into the cloud. And some banks I've heard are even going analog. They're literally printing out things because of cybersecurity risks. And then my understanding of blockchain is that it's like similar to the cloud, but it's not in a, some sort of server farm somewhere away from the person, but across multiple computers around the world. Is that what is the benefit of this decentralized, the data's like spread everywhere, and how is that in fact, safe?
Yeah, no, but that's exactly where I think zero knowledge comes into play, because you're able to, create these more distributed environments where potentially data can live. And so and I don't want to get too technical here with zero knowledge, but because of how it verifies the information without you having to physically reveal it, it makes it much more secure than some of the other kind of traditional mediums that we're accustomed to for where data might be living. And this also outlines why I think historically there has been some risk associated with like blockchain technology up until this point. This is sort of the piece that I think a lot of entities have been waiting for, is like to see how this particular technology is going to evolve. Now, I'm not saying that this is an end-all be-all solution either. There are certainly a lot of security measures that you have to take into account, especially if we are talking about like a banking or pharma or something like that. But this is also very applicable to other industries as well, including, right, fashion, manufacturing, traditional sort of retail enterprises. But I am very excited. I'm very hopeful. I think we're just at the tipping point right now. The innovation that we're going to be seeing over the next couple of years, I think it's going to go faster and faster and faster. And the fact that we're building and we're seeing more projects being set up to really tweak the solution around this technology now in this really insane market that we're in, it's very exciting.
Yes, absolutely. And if I was to sort of wave a magic wand in terms of what I would like from this technology, is to enable more creative collaboration. So it's less about, I created this IP and I own it, and therefore I can monetize it, and this is me and my brand, and I'm this sort of individual artist. It's more a case of people collaborating together, understanding that, creations evolve and that's part of the process. But for blockchain to be able to track that sort of ever-changing IP and to give everyone, royalties along the way for being, a collaborative artist with others and playing, being a real sort of team contributor. So that's what I'd like to see out of this. I don't know how that would happen.
No, absolutely. So again, it's like, if in this particular scenario, let's say, you are looking to create, the virtual environment where you're looking to move avatars into, not just the 3D kind of environment, but also into like a Web3 gaming environment. You can then sort of enable a way for creators within that environment to monetize their assets on the ZK framework or ecosystem. And then there's also really, I think, more just protection, security around their intellectual property that is within that asset creation. And then it also makes, I think, that asset transference, right, between parties much easier and also safer. Because if we think back to a lot of the things that we've seen that happened in Web3 in 2021 through, even just like 6 months ago, there's lots of the rug pulls and things like that. So it's a way to protect not only your asset from an ownership perspective, but also how you're being monetized for that asset as well.
Absolutely. And I think in general, we've kind of, in marketing terms, we've moved from people being consumers and just buying things to then being creators on platforms and creating a lot of content. And then even if you look in games, if you look at Fortnite, it's gone through sort of waves. And whenever it's kind of had another surge of interest, it's because they've allowed more creators to come on board and to customize things. And if you look at, I don't know, Nike buying artifacts. So once you buy the NFT of those digital sneakers, you actually have access to the 3D assets and you can change them. And within a game, not only can you change assets, but you can also combine two things together and breed them. So you can see how the creative process becomes part of the experience. It's not just, I buy this and that's it, I consume it, I throw it away. It's this real kind of circular economy where things have a life of their own. And that's why it needs to be tracked along the way, both in the digital world, but also in the physical world. I think we'll move from, owning cars to sharing cars, IoT sending, and sensor technology sending it, information back to the manufacturer saying, this person just used the car and had an accident, and so we're going to get to this stage where we're just sharing things all the time. So we're really going to have to track the life of these objects.
Absolutely. And you actually bring up a great point, is really that collaborative kind of just an ecosystem, right? That like gaming hubs are trying to create with the actual players themselves as creators, but also just community members. And so I think what I was reading in the partnership that Polygon has sort of established with Immutable, that's really the world that they're trying to create with Immutable ZK EVM, is really that type of framework, so that, really it's a story that, a game can create with its participants. And that really works in favor of, I think, the way that the creator economy is moving.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for both of your contributions. Grishma, what's next for you in terms of delving into this space as it kind of evolves and changes? What can we kind of look forward to seeing? Are there any like new regulations coming up, or
Absolutely. There will be a lot of inclusion of the AI generated artworks into copyrights, which at present is in the waves of like research. There are a lot of policymakers that are looking into the space where they can include AI generated artworks into copyrights and intellectual properties, and differentiate between the physical copyright intellectual properties and the AI generated ones. I think we as the legal fraternity have a lot of work to do in drawing the line between the physical artists and the AI artists that are going to come in. And also, US is going in a very fast pace at the moment in including the artworks that AI is generating. But there are few jurisdictions who are yet to open up their spaces for AI artists. But I think it's a space where everyone is coming along with. It's no more area where everyone is uncomfortable, or there's like a question about the competition ethical issues that will be raised, because there are a lot of instances and artists and a lot of lawmakers are trying to address the ethical issues as well. So once that part is a little clear, I hopefully can tell you that there will be one day where regulations pertaining to AI art fashion designs will also come up. But I think fashion is going to be the first area where the regulations will come up, because the inclusion of the physical world is the stretch is very short in terms of fashion AI and the real fashion world. So the manufacturing, there are a lot of artists that are involved. And this part, I think fashion will be the first area where they will try to incorporate IP rights as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your summary. And at Fashion AI, we're going to really try and help the artists and creators to protect their IP designs, maybe license it out, whether they're licensing their artwork to be used in a magazine, or to be turned into physical fashion, and trying to enable some collaborations between the artists and brands. So that's really interesting. And then from a copyright standpoint, yes, and at the moment it's a bit difficult to copyright generative AI art pieces, and that's really difficult even for brands. So imagine, for example, Disney, or let's say a fashion brand like Chanel, they've got all of their data and they could create their own generative AI tool to be used in-house to create new designs. But it therefore means that all of the designs that get created from the generative AI tool can't be copyrighted. So
Yeah.
they're disincentivized from innovating into this space. So eventually, even brands will realize that generative AI is just going to speed up the creative process. There needs to be a mechanism to copyright the work, and
I
it
think
will
the part
probably
here,
include the process and the data to begin with.
yes, I think to add on to what you're saying, there's already a requirement for the general copyrights that we have, like I've discussed, novelty and inventiveness. That is one part which in the physical copyright session also, the departments of copyright look into how new is the idea, how new is the design, and how far the edit or the improvisation has gone in order to give the person the copyright. So I think it's going to remain the same with AI generation as well. And also to add on to the previous presentation I've done, I forgot to mention about digitally worn outfits only. I think there's one brand called Fabricant where it only deals with virtual dresses or virtual costumes, where I think a lot of AI artists can also find scope in monetizing them. And also, Marina has told about the gaming sessions as well, where you can include the artwork, where you can sell, or maybe hopefully there will be a platform where you can actually sell your art, costume, fashion designs that can be incorporated into games individually instead of being specific to certain games.
Fantastic. Great. Well, thank you so much for all joining, and I'll see you next week for the next Fashion Fridays, which will be about digital spaces. So as we start to build games and we're building virtual stores and games, how the space is part of the story and the brand, and communicating a fashion collection.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
It was a fun discussion.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.